Imagine waking up to a 5-ton predator crushing the cars parked in your own driveway. If dinosaurs returned today, our modern world would collapse into total chaos within a few hours. This would not be a movie. It is a violent collision between two completely different eras. Most people would die in the first wave because humans cannot survive against ancient apex predators. Police would quickly realize that standard weapons are useless against the thick hide of these massive creatures. We must look at the brutal physical consequences of bringing this ancient world back to life today. The military response would be the only thing standing between the human race and total extinction. Once the scale is clear, every major nation would declare a global state of emergency and war. You would see tanks rolling through streets to engage a T-Rex with armor-piercing shells and artillery. Fighter jets would patrol while drones tracked giant predators moving through forests and abandoned suburban areas. Dinosaurs are powerful, but they cannot survive direct hits from modern missiles and heavy military weaponry. Cities would become active war zones filled with smoke, explosions, and the screams of ancient monsters. Humanity would survive, but only by turning the entire world into a massive, bloody battlefield. Countries would be forced to put aside political rivalries to create a unified, global Saurian defense force. Nations that once hated each other would share intelligence and soldiers to stop the prehistoric invasion. Massive bombing campaigns would target breeding grounds hidden in jungles before the populations could spread further. Napalm and heavy explosives would wipe out nests before thousands of eggs could hatch into predators. The planet would transform into a military machine focused on exterminating the ancient species before we lose control. This would not be coexistence. It would be a cold and systematic war for our survival. The global food chain would collapse almost immediately as predators reclaim the modern ecosystems. Packs of raptors could wipe out entire farms of livestock in a single night of hunting. Modern animals have no instincts to deal with hunters from another era of Earth's history. Cows and horses would panic and scatter as dinosaurs reclaimed the land they once dominated easily. Food shortages would spread as agriculture becomes too dangerous to maintain in open rural areas. Humans would no longer be the rulers of the food chain in this deadly prehistoric jungle. Even a walk to the grocery store would become a life or death gamble for a hungry person. Modern infrastructure would fail under the weight and the raw physical power of these massive creatures. A wandering sauropod could collapse bridges and destroy highways simply by walking through the city streets. Power lines would snap and gas lines would explode during large and violent dinosaur stampedes. Insurance companies would go bankrupt within days as damages reached trillions of dollars across the world. Governments would build heavily fortified safe zones protected by electric fences and armed military patrols. Ordinary suburban life would disappear as cities evolve into defensive fortresses designed to keep the giants out. The return of dinosaurs would also trigger a terrifying biological disaster for the human population. These creatures would carry ancient bacteria and viruses that modern immune systems have never encountered before. A small scratch from a scavenger could infect a person with diseases that no antibiotic can cure. Hospitals would become overcrowded with victims suffering from mysterious infections spreading from the prehistoric wildlife. Scientists would race to create vaccines against the paleo plague, but it might spread faster than modern medicine. Humanity would be fighting the dinosaurs and the microscopic horrors of an ancient ecosystem simultaneously. Transportation would become extremely dangerous across the land, the sea, and the open air. Flying reptiles like pteranodons would make commercial air travel impossible by attacking aircraft mid-flight. Shipping routes would be threatened by giant marine predators capable of tearing apart cargo ships from below. Highways would become death traps, where drivers encounter massive herbivores blocking roads or predators stalking traffic. Global trade would collapse as nations lose the ability to safely move food and fuel supplies. Civilization depends on movement, and dinosaurs would bring all that movement to a sudden halt. Human psychology would change forever under the constant and crushing fear of being hunted. Children would grow up practicing Saurian emergency drills in schools just to survive their own lunch break. People would become hyper-aware of shadows and noises in nearby forests or empty streets. Cities would be redesigned with underground shelters and reinforced rooftops to withstand a massive attack. At night, the streets would belong to predators with sharper senses than anything humans have faced before. Even after years of war, humanity would probably never eliminate the dinosaurs from the planet completely. Dense jungles and remote mountain ranges would become permanent dinosaur territories beyond our human control. Entire sections of the planet would be labeled as red zones, where entering means certain death. Border walls and automated turrets would separate human civilization from the wild, prehistoric regions outside. Humanity would no longer dominate every inch of Earth. We would occupy the parts we can defend. Civilization would shrink inward while the ancient world slowly grows much stronger beyond the high walls. Advanced technology would become our greatest and most vital tool for our continued survival. AI-controlled drones would patrol the skies searching for dinosaur movement 24 hours every single day. Automated defense systems would guard cities with machine guns, motion sensors, and electrified barriers. However, maintaining these systems would consume enormous amounts of energy and limited global resources. A simple blackout could lead to entire settlements being overrun by hungry predators overnight. Every human city would become a fragile high-tech fortress surrounded by a hostile and ancient wilderness. The environmental consequences would reshape the entire planet into a prehistoric version of itself. Massive herds of herbivores would destroy forests and alter the climate through their consumption of vegetation. Predators would hunt modern animals to extinction, disrupting ecosystems that evolved after the dinosaurs disappeared. Methane emissions from giant herbivores could accelerate climate change and alter the atmosphere of the planet. Earth would slowly begin transforming back into a world dominated by ancient and massive biological forces. Humanity would no longer be the primary force shaping the world. The dinosaurs would reclaim that role. In the end, the return of dinosaurs would mark the end of human comfort and safety. The modern world would crumble under the weight of creatures too massive for civilization to contain. Humanity would survive, but only by retreating into fortified cities and abandoning huge parts of the planet. The roar of a T-Rex will be the sound of an old world returning to its throne. We are not the final stage of evolution. We are just another species trying to survive. Dinosaurs would remind us that the Earth is a violent and unpredictable place for any living thing.